Welcome everyone to Theory Court. My name is Lord Justice Clark, and in today's Theory Court we will be looking at a RWBY case that deals with this particular incident. At this moment, Ozpin, Team RWBY, Team Junior, and Crow have all been arrested and are facing murder charges. It will be the job of Chief Prosecutor Harry Davison to prove the defendants are guilty.
That will be easy. As Chief Prosecutor and Ultimate Detective, I have never lost a case.
Isn't this your first case?
Yarr, resin frizzin'.
Where is the defense? We asked the new attorney, what's his name? Rightworth? No, that's not it. Oh, yes, Rushforth.
I'm here, Your Honour. But I could have just sworn I was at the Theory Chat Cafe. Why has my animation style changed? Harry, why are you over there? And how are you the Chief Prosecutor if this is your first case?
Anyway, it's time to commence the trial. Are the defense and prosecution ready?
The prosecution is ready, Your Honour.
The defence is ready, Your Honour.
Very good. Now, Prosecutor Davison, please explain the basics of crime.
Why, of course, Your Honour. In order to commit any crime under UK law, two things need to be proven. The first thing is the physical act of the crime. For example, stabbing someone is an act. Pretty obvious. This is known as the actus reus. The other part that needs to be satisfied is the intention to do the crime. For example, in Volume 4, Tyrion intentionally stabs Crow with his tail. It definitely was not an accident. This is known as the mens rea.
Hold it! Both of these need to be proven in order to establish any crime. But in this scenario, exactly why is my client to blame?
Ah, poor naive Jordan. No human language can describe the disappointment I'm feeling right now. Why don't we break down the facts? Ozpin knows the relic will attract Grimm, but chooses to not inform anyone of this fact. Team RWBY, as well as Ozpin and Oscar, bring the relic onto the train. It is then implied during the train attack that it is more dangerous than usual due to the number and severity of Grimm, which ultimately leads to Dee's fatality by Manticore. This shows Ozpin is liable for the death and definitely shows a high possibility of murder.
Okay, so we can pin the death on Ozpin, so let's talk about how there's a possibility of murder.
Of course, Your Honour. The act of murder is where the defendant unlawfully causes the death of another person. To show Ozpin caused this murder, he must pass a test. This is the but-for test. This can be summarised as, but for the defendant's actions, would the victim still be alive?
Ah, I see. So, if Ozpin and everyone else did not bring the relic on the train, Dean would not have been killed during the Grimm attack.
Exactly, Your Honour. But for Ozpin's actions, Dee would not have died, so the act of murder is passed.
Objection! But can we be really sure that Dee would not have died anyway? As shown, there would more than likely have been a Grimm attack due to the fact the company had hired Huntsman for protection, so who's to say that he wouldn't have died if there had been a normal Grimm attack?
Silence! In the train station, it was shown that Dee was very cocky and wasn't nervous about the trip at all. This implies that he was used to dealing with the normal level of Grimm, but in the fight, the Huntsmen were bombarded with Grimm. Therefore, they simply got overwhelmed, so I believe it is almost certain that Dee would still be alive if not for Ozpin's actions.
Well, I suppose you have a point there. But in order to be guilty of murder, the act of intention also has to be passed.
That's a very good point, defence. Prosecutor Davison, please explain how Ozpin passed the intention of murder.
With pleasure, Your Honour. In order to have intention for murder, you must have direct intent or indirect intent. Direct intent must be the aim or desire to kill or cause serious injury.
Objection! This is clearly not the case. If Ozpin wanted to kill Dee, he surely could have, and since Ozpin has no control over Grimm, there is no way he could have orchestrated Dee's death.
Objection! You make a good case, defense. However, he could satisfy murder through indirect intent. As of the time of this trial taking place, the current test is, are the actions virtually certain to cause death or serious injury? And in this situation, I believe that is the case.
Objection! I disagree. As we know, there are measures in place to prevent Grimm from injuring anyone. It is implied that Dee and Dudley are registered huntsmen assigned to Argus Limited.
Why, Dee and Dudley, of course. The Argus Limited's very own huntsman.
On top of this, we see that there are defences on the train, also designed to protect the train and the people on it. Despite the relic attracting more Grimm, these defences being in place reduce the likelihood of anyone being injured or killed, so I'd argue it was not virtually certain.
Oh, I see. Even though the murder has been passed, if there is no intention, then Ozpin and the rest of the group are not guilty of murder. I think I'm ready to give my ruling.
Objection! Just because Ozpin and Team RWBY are not guilty of murder does not mean they didn't commit any crime at all. They still caused the death. In fact, they are still liable for a crime. And I think I know just what crime we need.
Objection! Due to the budget, there will be no montages in this trial.
Fine. It's manslaughter. Gross negligent manslaughter.
But wait, I thought manslaughter was accidental murder.
Well, yes, but actually no. There are two types of manslaughter, voluntary and involuntary. However, to prove this theory, we only need to focus on involuntary. If we dive deeper into involuntary manslaughter, there are two types of involuntary manslaughter. These are criminal and dangerous act manslaughter, as well as, the more important one for this trial, gross negligent manslaughter.
That's a pretty complex word. What exactly does it mean and how does it apply to the situation?
Gross negligent manslaughter is where the defendant has a duty of care. They fail that duty, which results in the victim's death. It is commonly used in positions of power, like the police or lifeguards, to make sure that they perform their essential duties correctly, and to make sure in general that everybody acts exactly how they should.
Hold it, but in order for someone to be guilty of gross negligence manslaughter, 4 areas need to be proven. The first area that has to be established is, did the defendant, or in this case Ozpin/Oscar, owe a duty of care to Dee? There are many ways to prove a duty of care. For example, if an electrician wires your house, they have a duty to ensure there are no faults. Also, in a more RWBY setting, Raven has a duty of care towards Yang simply because Yang is her daughter. However, in this scenario, Ozpin did not know Dee personally before meeting him on the station, and Ozpin was not contacted by Dee in any way. So how could my client Ozpin owe a duty of care to a complete stranger?
Objection! Well, it looks like you've fallen into my trap, defense. And you seem to have forgotten that Ozpin could be liable under creation of a danger. This is where a defendant has a duty of care if they create a danger, as they then have an obligation to minimize that danger as much as they can. For example, if you light a cigarette, it is your duty to extinguish it, stopping a potential fire hazard.
Okay, so let's apply this to the RWBY situation. Ozpin knows the relic will attract Grimm. Therefore, bringing the relic on the train creates the danger of attracting Grimm. So, does this show that Ozpin has a duty of care?
Yes, it does, Your Honour, because attracting Grimm to a civilian train is quite clearly a danger. What's wrong, defence? No objections? Can you not question my unlimited logic?
Sadly the defence has no objections.
Just as I thought. As we have now established Ozpin has a duty of care through creation of a danger, we now need to prove that there is a breach of this duty.
Wrong type of breach, Alan. How many times do I have to tell you?
Right. At least we know where the budget for this video went.
Anyway, as I was saying, to prove a breach, all we have to ask is, do Ozpin and Oscar's actions fall below the standards of the ordinary reasonable huntsman? For example, someone will breach their duty if they drive over the speed limit, as the ordinary driver would not do this.
Ah, I see now. So, in this situation, Ozpin withholding the information means that Dean and Dudley and the rest of the cast could not have prepared for the Grim attack effectively, meaning that Ozpin's actions fell below the standards of ordinary huntsmen, as other huntsmen like Crow and Oobleck would very likely not do this.
Objection! But how can we be actually sure of this? Is there any proof that the other huntsmen wouldn't do the same?
Funny you say that, Defense. Take a look at this.
Oz, are you serious?
This scene implies that Crow was shocked, if not disgusted, at Ozpin's actions. So why would he react like that, if they are also actions that Crow himself would have done?
Well, you have a good point there.
Furthermore, we need to prove that Ozpin's breach caused the death. However, we've already shown this earlier in the trial.
Objection! Aren't you forgetting that you have to prove that it is in fact grossly negligent? The test for this is currently, are the defendant's actions so bad it's a crime? This is a very hard test to pass, so I think...
Objection! Here's what I say. What Ozpin has effectively done is withhold extremely vital information and brought the relic of knowledge aboard a train filled with civilians, which he knows will attract Grim. The train in question is not prepared to handle the level of Grim being attracted to the train. This is clearly shown in the fight scene, as the only way the train is able to escape is by using Ren and Jean's semblances combined.
Whoa, that is so bad. That should be a crime. Due to Ozpin's actions, a poor guy died and nearly killed a whole bunch of people if it wasn't for Jean and Ren. I think I'm ready to rule a verdict.
Hold it. So far, we've only proven that Ozpin is guilty of a crime, where the title of the video is Team RWBY. Therefore, you can't pass a verdict, as this case is not just for Ozpin, it's for Team RWBY as well.
That's where you're wrong. Sorry, wrong trial. But if that is the case, aren't you forgetting about a little thing called complicity?
Huh? Complicity?
Essentially, complicity is where people help or encourage someone to commit a crime, without them committing the crime in question themselves. A prime example of this would be if you hired an assassin to kill somebody.
Hold it. Oh, I remember now. But in order to be an accomplice, we have to prove that Team RWBY and others assisted or encouraged the person who committed the crime. And they also had to intentionally help him.
Silence! The overlying plotline for Volume 6 is trying to get the relic to Atlas. Whilst on the train, Ozpin and Oscar is carrying the relic while Team RWBY, Junior and Crow are protecting the relic, as well as Ozpin and Oscar. Therefore, they are assisting Ozpin and Oscar in bringing the relic on board, which leads to the manslaughter of D. Henceforth, making Team RWBY, Junior and Crow accomplices. It doesn't even matter that they are not aware that the relic attracts Grim. As the law states, they only need to assist them, which Team RWBY and Co. most definitely do.
Whoa, so Team RWBY, Junior and Crow are also guilty?
Objection. But how can you call them killers? Surely they are just accomplices.
Objection! Just know that an accomplice charge is exactly the same as the charge that they assist with. So even though Team RWBY didn't actually kill D, they will be treated exactly the same as Ozpin.
I've heard enough. I'm ready to give my ruling. I find Ozpin guilty of gross negligence manslaughter, and I find Team RWBY, Team Junior and Crow Brownwing guilty of accomplices to manslaughter.
Wait, this idea is based on Ace Attorney. The defense isn't supposed to lose.
Sorry, we don't do that here. A quick disclaimer, guys. All law discussed in this theory are under UK law, so the results may vary depending on the country, especially since we have no idea how remnant law works. Also, this is our opinion on the events. Parts of this theory are debatable, however the final ruling was based on a most likely outcome. This case is less straightforward than it may seem, Therefore, parts of this theory can be debated with more complex legal discussion. But enough of all that boring stuff. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and remember, drop a like.
Leave a comment.
Subscribes are always appreciated.
And don't forget to ring the notification bell to hear about all our future videos.
And I'll say something too. Well, at least I can go home now.
What are you talking about? You're defending the next case. You can't leave now, you foolish fool.
Next case? What next case?
You're down as defense for the next case. The People versus the Phantom Thieves.
I'm not gonna get a break here, am I?
No, you're not. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next trial. Dismissed!